Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Oasis Focus and Finance Show. I'm your host, Shafiq Morton. As always, it's a great pleasure to be with you. In the show today, we are going to be having a look at property as an important asset class, and later on we will showcase the Oasis Crescent Property Fund. As always, your queries and comments are welcome, and details will be up on the screen during the show. In studio with me are Ebrahim and Michael Swingler, Senior Investment Analysts at Oasis. Gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum, good day.
Good day, Shafiq. Thank you for having us, Shafiq.
Ishmael, the first question. Let's establish, why is property such an important asset class?
Shafiq, I think firstly it's important to establish that the concept of asset classes, and asset classes is a concept which entails three types: equity, property and income. And it's an important concept from an investment portfolio and risk management perspective, as well as diversification. And what it gives you is three different asset classes. Each have their own risk and return profiles, as well as their correlation with each other varies. And that assists you in reducing your risk from managing your portfolio perspective. We've spoken in the past about diversification, and that includes what you've got is generally diversification is a strategic tool which you can use to reduce your risk because of the various ways in which the different types of asset classes interact with each other. And through that, you've generally got 5 forms of diversification, we like to call it. You've got your asset class diversification, which I indicated as equity, property or income asset classes. You've got your sectoral diversification, your geographic diversification, your instrument diversification, and also most importantly, which the investors individually can relate to, is your currency diversification. With the rand where it is, we all know the importance of currency diversification. Property in itself is also very different. So what property affords an investor, and investors are encouraged to look for diversification in their portfolios. And what property affords an investor is the ability to be exposed to an asset class that provides sustainable capital growth, as well as a consistent income stream. And why we say consistent income stream is generally what you find in property is that it's contractually related income streams, because you've got a lease term or a lease agreement which extends for a certain period of time, and so you know what you're going to receive consistently over the 5 to 10 year period. So we've got that from a property, so it's a consistent base, and it's very strong way of building your portfolio. And because it's different to equities, which in some cases might have it's not necessarily contractual income flows, you have reduced risk. So within property, what you can then also diversify either globally. You get your geographic diversification, so you invest globally, which also gives you an element of diversification. And then lastly, the importance of a collective investment scheme or property collective investment schemes. What that affords an individual investor, which we see, especially in various communities, people in their individual capacity tend to invest in direct property themselves. But what a collective investment scheme allows you to do is it allows you to pool your funds with other investors and be exposed to skilled management whose profession is to manage direct property. It also allows you to be able to be exposed to high quality locations. So an individual might not necessarily be able to buy, or not everybody has that type of money in their personal wealth or family wealth where they can go buy an entire shopping center. But by a collective investment scheme, you then have the ability to be exposed to high quality locations like Canal Walk, the waterfront, whatever the case may be. And then thirdly, property, the liquidity in the property market, when you do a property transaction, the transfer takes 3 or more months sometimes. And so your liquidity through a collective investment scheme is a lot higher. So you've got skilled management, liquidity, high quality locations, and then lastly, you also have exposure to very high quality tenants, because through collective investment schemes with these high quality locations, you find large multinational and national listed tenants wanting exposure, which is what you ideally want to be exposed to.
Michael, Ismail just said property is a quality investment, but what is the current state of the property market right now?
Shafiq, let's have a quick look at the fundamentals. What drives the value of property and the income that you get out of property? It's really the rental income, and the key drivers of rental income, as with many things in the economy, is supply and demand. So it's really about, within each property class, you can get retail, office, industrial. It's about how many square meters of space is available in a specific market, and also how many square meters of space do tenants require, or how many tenants are there that would like to rent that space. And the bottom line is that if the demand exceeds the supply, then the rental income will grow. So if we have a quick look at developed markets globally, when we came out of the economic downturn in 2008, 2009, the US economy was leading Europe and Asia. So there we've seen rental growth because of additional demand. As the economy recovers, you get additional demand. You've seen rental growth accelerate faster in the US. Europe also recovering, but a lot slower, and to some extent lagging. Then for South Africa, I'd just like to have a quick look at retail, office and industrial separately. We believe that there's going to be some lower level of new shopping center developments. There has been a relatively high level of new shopping center developments in South Africa in the past 10 years. We believe over the next 3 to 5 years, we'll see a lower level, which is good for rentals because slightly less supply. And we're still seeing good demand from retailers, especially the national and international retailers, for shopping centers that have got strong locations. If we look at the office, demand in the office sector is quite closely linked to employment and business confidence. And with our slower economic growth environment at the moment, it will take time for rental growth and recovery in the office sector. And lastly, in the industrial sector, that's quite exciting. And the reasons there are really that companies, retailers and other consumer goods companies are looking for modern logistics and warehousing space, because with modern space they can get efficiencies and cost savings. So that's really driving the demand for a modern logistics space. And then globally and in South Africa, we talk about e-commerce and the impact of online sales. South Africa may be lagging some of the global markets, but e-commerce is gaining traction. And again, for e-commerce to be successful, the companies need more specialized and modern warehousing and logistics to support that business. So we're seeing good and healthy demand in the industrial sector for modern warehouse space.
Isma-el, let's bring it closer to home. The Oasis Property Fund has celebrated its 10th birthday. We didn't bring a cake into the studio because we'd set it on fire. But let's look at how did it all start, 10 years ago?
Shafiq, Oasis extended its track record as a pioneer in the socially responsible, we can call it, or Sharia compliant universe, and in delivering socially responsible investments for our socially responsible cognizant investor and client base. We were probably the first in the world to deliver a Sharia compliant a listed property fund in the Oasis Crescent Property Fund. And the Oasis Crescent Property Fund was registered on the 2nd of November 2005, and so technically from registration date we are celebrating our 10th birthday, alhamdulillah, and we are happy to do that. Over that time period of the last 10 years, there's been a number of highlights, which I'll talk to. But firstly, just a bit of background on the Oasis Crescent Property Fund. It's a listed property fund, listed on the Altex in South Africa. It's exposed to South African direct property, as well as listed property in South Africa and globally. It's got a strong balance sheet, which provides it the flexibility to pursue any opportunities that may come up. But over the 10 years that the fund has been around, and the most important point I'd like to bring home is the fund is actually built without any debt. So alhamdulillah, if you look at the balance sheet, you'll see a very strong balance sheet, which we are very proud of, having built something from an total asset base of under $500 million at the time of starting up or back in at least 10 years ago, definitely under $500 million. And today, we can boast a fund with total assets. The recent report or interim results came out a few weeks ago, and you'll see that total assets are now just under $1 billion. So very, very proud of what we've been able to deliver to market in being the first in the world to deliver something in catering for our socially responsible investor client base.
Michael, has the Oasis Crescent Property Fund managed to deliver on its objectives when it started off 10 years ago?
Yes, Shafiq. We set out to provide sustainable income and real returns, as Isma-el referred to, in terms of the role of property as an asset class. And then also doing this by providing a high quality, Sharia-compliant property fund within the regulated and transparent environment of the JSE. So through our focus approach, we've delivered significant real wealth for investors. If you look at the numbers, the annualized total unit holder return per year over the last 10 years has been 13.8% per annum, and that's relative to the annualized inflation of 6.1% per annum. So that's outperforming inflation, or giving you a real return of 7.7% per year.
On that note, you are watching the Oasis Crescent Focus and Finance show. We are talking about property as an asset class and showcasing the Oasis Crescent Property Fund. Time for a quick break. We'll be back right after this.